Despite having a great run at being a recruitment consultant for a private staffing firm, I finally decided to quit. Welcome back to the channel. I'm John, and in these videos I talk about resumes, CV writing, applying for jobs, and everything employment in between. So I follow a number of creators on YouTube, especially I really enjoy following the stories of people who are on the journey towards finding employment, especially certain groups that are having a few more challenges than others. In particular, people in their 50s and some in 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. They worked for a long time for a certain company and all of a sudden were laid off. So I'm really, really interested in exploring that dynamic and figuring out what it is I can put forward to help people in that situation. One video I watched yesterday was on a channel called Fade to Grey. It's a gentleman back home in the UK who has been struggling to secure long-term consistent employment. He's applied for tons of different jobs. He's in the finance accounting sector. And he's documenting his, the trials and tribulations of job hunting. And he posted a video which really resonated with me about his experience working with private agencies, recruitment agencies, and what his experience has been like thus far. And really what struck me was a lot of what he spoke about is what I experienced. So my story is that a number of years ago, I started working as a recruitment consultant for a large multinational recruiting company. I won't say who, but from what I understand, the dynamic is very similar amongst a lot of the big names that I'm certain that a lot of you are familiar with. I started working for this company in a small town, and I enjoyed the work. I loved the work. I started in one office, just the regular staffing office, meeting candidates, dropping off resumes, speaking to clients, filling positions. But soon I was assigned to a very unique office on site with a particular client. It was a massive, massive contract. And so essentially I had my own branch within a client's facility where I was dedicated solely to that client. So my role was a little different than the regular recruitment consultant. I was officially named branch manager. But prior to going there, I worked in a regular office, and very soon I realized that I wasn't working for a staffing HR company in any way whatsoever. Although that was the guise, it was a sales organization. So recruitment consultants essentially are salespeople. That impacts the relationship they then have with the candidates or the people that are going to them looking for work, which is a lot of what the video I watched on Fade to Grey spoke about. There are very firm sales metrics. In fact, I remember that they implemented a program where everybody in the branch had to fill out a daily spreadsheet detailing how many sales calls they made, how many prospect calls they made, cold calls they had made. There were regular sales meetings. There was a board that detailed what the weekly net revenue was. And very soon, I always cared about people. I came from an earlier period where working with people was central to everything I did. I'll talk about that in another video. And sales performance was rewarded very well. There were bonuses. There was something akin to a president's club where there was a all-inclusive, all expense-paid trip somewhere in the world where people from different countries, different branches would get together for 7 days of just feasting um, and having a great time. I was winner of a few of those because of my when I was a branch manager, because of the performance of my office. I didn't go on those trips. Um, the whole thing became, to me, it started to feel as if a person looking for a job was equated or given a dollar value either by the hour if they were contingent employees, or or the fee that the company would charge if it was a permanent placement. So if somebody came in looking for a job and they weren't at all suitable for the positions the office was hiring for, that would impact the service they received. You know, would the recruiting consultants be aggressive in networking or skill marketing them to potential clients or to existing clients, or would they focus on those that they knew they could essentially close a deal with? Um, and it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel right. I loved what I did. I loved what I did when I had my own branch, because I worked closely with the team I had working on site. They were contingent employees. Um, so my relationship with them was I was very involved with them on a daily basis, and I worked with many who, came from challenging circumstances, and eventually worked with me for a number of years, and either they were made permanent or they you know went on to something better, bigger and better afterwards. So luckily I was isolated, but that first period working at the regular branch level, it was clear that recruiting consultants, branch managers were salespeople. I remember there was a number of manager meetings which I kept going to because I became a branch manager, and training sessions at the head office. Not one of them. Remember, we're talking about working in recruiting. Um, Sorry, but there's bugs today. Not one of the meetings had anything to do with anything human resources. There was no training on BDI interviewing. There was no training on managing a health and safety program. There was no training on workforce development. Absolutely zero, zero. All of the training was on sales, 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 sales. I remember one meeting I went to. They had a sales guru who was, so they called him, who was a branch manager at one of the other offices, and it was cringe. It was, he's go into a client, tell him, give me your business sex, and sign the deal and start. That's what it was like. High intensity, push, push, push sales. That's what they would be teaching. So what I'm trying to say is that when you're working with an agency, keep in mind that they're salespeople. They want to close a deal, and they want to essentially win a client's business and close a deal and increase their revenues. They're a business. That's what businesses do. I'm not faulting them on that. I think where the disconnect for me is when there's a company that purports to being a human resource service provider forgets the human part of what they're doing. So eventually, even though I was having a great run running my own branch and somewhat isolated from that regular sales part of things, of course, I wanted to see the company profitable. Everybody, that's why everyone's in business. But I couldn't do that sales thing. Um, and so really my chances of any progression in the company was stifled, because I just couldn't do that high level sales. I wasn't a salesperson. I like to see myself as a practitioner working with people. So I decided to leave and start my own agency. And I didn't have a salesperson. We did not make cold calls. Um, I focused on, I went backwards from what a traditional agency would do, where I would focus on the people, and eventually, as I believe, success would come, and it did. It was a winning formula, and it became one of the fastest growing recruitment agencies in the region. Um, there were some challenges, of course, with my previous employer. They came after me pretty hard early on. I guess, concern for their business, but at the end of the day, everybody did fine. So I quit. I quit working, wanting to, I guess, feel that sense of inner integrity. You know, I couldn't quantify. I couldn't just look at somebody as being a dollar value. Um, so when you're working with an agency, um, keep in mind they are salespeople. They will. Everything is very transactional because they're focused on a sale. They're incentivized to place people. Use that to your advantage. You know, if you see a position that you're interested in, push them to forward it, um, to forward your resume to the client. If you've given them a resume for consideration and they haven't gotten back to you, pick up the phone and call them and remind them. Say, hey, have you found anything for me? How are things looking? Stay on their radar, but keep in mind that they are salespeople first and foremost. This isn't to say that there weren't some phenomenal people in that role. They were salespeople first, but there are a number of very caring recruitment consultants. So I made friendships and developed relationships with recruiters at different agencies. Some fantastic people within the organization I work for too. Some phenomenal recruiters who then transitioned and went to work as corporate recruiters, went to work at other agencies. So there are some great people out there. But keep in mind that recruitment agencies are first and foremost sales organizations. I'd like to hear any of your experiences that you've had with working with recruitment agencies, good, the bad, especially the good. I think, you know, let's hear some positive stories. Um, drop me a comment below. If you haven't already, truly would appreciate you subscribing to this channel. And if you got some value from this video, would appreciate a thumbs up. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.